Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, San Francisco became the first city to ban use of facial recognition technology, but a similar ban is being considered in my district, the Massachusetts 7th Congressional District, by Somerville, Massachusetts. And it's the first on the East Coast to propose such a ban. Facial recognition technology has been used by law enforcement in Massachusetts since 2006, but there are concerns about due process given that police and prosecutors do not notify defendants when the technology has been used in their cases. I do believe that federal agencies should not use this technology without legislative authorization, and these due process violations are a perfect example as to why. But companies have been pushing this technology on police departments, despite knowing that it works only 30% of the time. This puts many people, including women and people of color, and young people at grave risk of harm, and underscores the need for congressional oversight. Ms. Bolamwini, first I want to say I'm so proud that AJL is in the Massachusetts 7th. You're based in Cambridge, correct?
We are.
Oh, so I'm so glad that you call the Massachusetts 7th your home. In your New York Times article from June of last year titled, "When the Robot Doesn't See Dark Skin," you describe how and why these inaccuracies exist. You refer to the, and I quote, coded, unquote, gaze. Can you describe this phenomenon for the record?
Sure. So you might have heard of the white gaze, or you might have heard of, let's say, the male gaze, and these descriptions are descriptions of power. Who has the power to decide? And so when I talk about the coded gaze, I am invoking the male gaze and the white gaze, and it's a question of whose priorities, preferences, and also prejudices are shaping the technology that we're seeing. So right now, the way I look at AI is we see this growing coded gaze that is mainly pale, mainly male, and doesn't represent the majority of society.
Thank you. Ms. Garvey, in your Georgetown report, you found that, and I quote, "There is no independent testing regime for racially biased error rates," unquote. Is this still the case today?
NIST has since then adopted looking at the differential error rates between race and gender in their studies. They have yet to look at the intersectional consequences of that, but they are starting to take a look.
Okay. And Ms. Bolamwini, are there any measures developers of this technology can take right now to increase the accuracy of their facial recognition systems?
Right now, what we've seen in the research studies that have happened thus far to improve these systems tends to be around the kind of data that's used to train the systems in the first place. But we have to be really cautious because even if you make accurate facial analysis systems, they can and will be abused without regulations.
All right, very good. Ms. Giuliani, in your testimony, you raised the example of Willie Lynch, who claims to have key details about the reliability of a facial recognition algorithm that led to his arrest and conviction. In his case, it was a low confidence match of a poor quality photo. Can you talk about the challenges that individuals may face rebutting a face recognition match, and how is it different than eyewitness identifications?
Sure. I mean, with an eyewitness, you can put that person on the stand. You may raise questions about how good their eyesight is, how far away they are, whether they were intoxicated at the time they made that identification. It's quite different with face recognition. I think people are assuming that it's 100% accurate, and fundamentally, a lot of individuals are not able to get information about the reliability of the algorithm. In the case you just referenced, that's still an ongoing case where Willie Lynch is fighting to get information about an algorithm that could be used to challenge his conviction.
Do you believe the FBI or other law enforcement agencies have adopted sufficient safeguards to prevent its face recognition technology from resulting in these civil rights abuses?
Absolutely not, and I certainly think this is an area where additional oversight is needed. When the FBI rolled out the system, they made a lot of promises. They made promises about accuracy, they made promises about testing, they made promises about protecting First Amendment rights, and now years later, a lot of those promises have been broken. The agency has not acknowledged a responsibility to test the accuracy of systems it uses, of external partners. There's questions about how accurate their systems are. And it doesn't appear that they have a high standard in place for when they're running face recognition searches. And I think all of those things are cause for concern and should really cause us to question whether the system should still be operating given the lack of safeguards.
Thank you. I yield back.